What's up, Matt from Urchfab here. In today's video I'm making some alterations to the Mini before taking it to Thruxton Circuit, the fastest circuit in the UK and my local racetrack, well, local-ish. Just want to take a minute to thank this week's video sponsor, which is Carly. This is a portable OBD2 scanner that turns your mobile phone into a diagnostics tool. And this is going to provide manufacturer level diagnostics of your vehicle. You can also code and customize your vehicle, unlock hidden features in your ECU, see fault codes that are stored on your ECU, turn off engine management lights, or if your vehicle's got some annoying alarms or features that you don't like, you might be able to turn those off. One of the difficult things about diagnostic work is you'll often just be given a code and that won't have any reference as to what the fault actually is. So with the Carly Smart Mechanic, they will break down all the codes that you've read and actually offer you solutions and processes on how to repair or fix the problem you've got. Right, so all I've got to do, open the app, plug it in, we'll run some diagnostics. We're only 9% in and we've already got 3 issues found. 90%, 95%, we're still only on 9 issues only. So I'm just going to try clear issues, because sometimes you might have just unplugged something, plug it back in, and that will actually pull a code up. So just by clearing it, that'll fix your issue. So now it's telling me to wait for 2 to 3 days after driving the car around, scan it again, see if those codes come up again, so I'll do that. So another interesting feature we got on here, live data. This is everything that the engine's reading I can now monitor on here. So there's 2 versions of the app. You've got a free version and a paid version. If you pay, you get access to everything that the app has. The free version has limited access. So if you want to get yourself one of these, you can get 15% off using my code, which is here, or just click the link in the description. So just want to say thanks again to Carly for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the Mini. If you saw the last video where I took the Mini to Castle Combe, you'll know I was having some issues shifting gears, and I've had quite a few people reach out and say that those jackknight involute boxes are very sensitive to the gear linkage and any slack in the linkage. So the UJs were something that was mentioned a couple of times. These have been replaced with some good quality UJs that I got from Owen's Fabrication. The only other thing that's making the whole setup feel a bit slack is the actual shifter itself and the bushes in there, which are worn. So we're going to sort those out. The other thing that I've been told to do is play around with the angle of the engine using the adjustable gearbox mounts. I've got some MED adjustable mounts there. And then I've got mounts at the top of the engine as well, so I can use those to sort of tilt the engine back or forward. Again, there's not much I can adjust there, but I have been told that that will make a big difference with these boxes. This is the shifter, which comes apart pretty easily. You just got to knock the 2 roll pins out, and then the central pieces just slide out, and then you've got 2 bronze bushes in the end there. I would have thought that these bushes would be readily available, but I couldn't seem to find any. So it's a 1/2 inch rod going through the centre, so I've got some oil filled 1/2 inch bronze bushes, which I'm just going to turn down to fit. So these knock out pretty easily with the use of a punch with a sharp edge on it. You can get in there and knock it through. It's quite a thin walled bronze bush in an aluminium housing, so you've got to be a little bit careful. quick measure up to see where we're at. So you can pick these oil-filled bushes up from lots of places. Got these on eBay, and then just spun it down to the required size to be a press-in fit. Making sure I just sort of sneak up on the final measurement. It's very easy to go that little bit too much, and once you've gone too far, even if it's just a fraction of a millimetre, it's pretty much ruined. The other problem you can have, which I have here, is that if it's too tight a fit, then when you press it in, you actually make the inner diameter smaller. So I pressed it in a little bit of the way and tried to get the pin through, and it was tight. So I had to pull that back out and then take a bit out of the center of that, because there was no way of me obviously holding that in the chuck and taking any more off the outside. But got it done, and yeah, nice fit on both of them, which removed all the slack. And then this thing obviously just goes back together in the opposite way it came apart, just making sure I've got everything round the right way. You can see that's a nice tight fit, runs very smoothly. And then you've got the backing plate, which has got the reverse gate lockout, so you have to make sure that is obviously the right way around, otherwise my reverse will be in the wrong side. And that's basically ready to go back in. Definitely a much smoother action to it, and it doesn't push the UJ up and down as you select back and forth from the gears. Previously the UJ was actually sort of rising up and down. So I had the gear stick popping out issue that I needed to sort out. Rather than putting a spring on there, I just made a little metal bracket and then ground a flat edge onto the dipstick, so that when you push it down in, it sort of snaps in, and then you can twist it, and the edge of the dipstick is then underneath that bracket, and it can't come out. Even when it's lined up, it's fairly difficult to pull it out, so that should do the trick. I've also changed the brake pads to these Mintex pads, which I ran in the P for about a year and really like the feel of them. So hopefully that'll be an improvement on the brakes, because they were a bit grabby with the carbon metallic mini spares pads in there. I've also changed the oil, because with all the missed shifts and crunching I was doing, I was kind of expecting there to be a load of bits of gear in the oil, but it came out really clean, so that's all good, and it's now ready to go. Okay, so here we are, Thruxton, sun shining, couldn't have asked for a better day. And I'm rattling my way up to the start line. These cars do sound horrendous when they're not revving with the straight cut drop gears. I had a few people comment saying that it sounded like it was about to blow up, but it sounds pretty sweet when it's revving. So the modifications to the gear shifter definitely made a really big difference. I know it doesn't really sound like it there, but the way it goes into gear is much better. I didn't have any of those instances where I couldn't get it into the gear. So I think people kept saying that they do crunch when they go into gear, but they should shift well, and that's what it's doing now. It is shifting well, but it's just a bit crunchy, which I can deal with that, and I think I can improve on that a bit further still as well. Brakes, definite improvement straight away, much better feel, much less grabby. I did still have some issues with it sort of squirming around under heavy braking, but I do still have those rubber bushed tie rods on the front of it. So it's pretty quiet track day, not many people there. I did meet a few guys that watch the channel. This Golf was cool. It's an ex-turbo hill climb Mark 1 Golf, which has been converted for track days now. I do like a Mark 1 Golf. I used to have a Mark 1 Golf pickup back in the day. So I made quite a lot of changes to the car as I was driving it, mainly with the clicker settings on the shocks, just playing around with stuff, trying to get a feel for what was doing what. And I think what I should have done really was just concentrate on my driving technique rather than making any changes to the car, because later in the day I sort of adjusted to the technique of sort of lifting off and flicking the car into a slide, and then getting straight back on the power, which seems to be the way to get these cars to turn. I was having a fair bit of trouble with understeer, and what was much more of an issue at this track was not having a limited slip diff. It was really easy to spin the inside wheel, particularly coming through the chicanes here, but the worst area for it was this next section. Had a few issues, as you can see, coming into there. Did a fair bit of sliding around, but just felt like I was just getting a bit more of a feel for the car, and I definitely made some changes that were for the worst. But as the day went on, I just sort of got more and more comfortable. Definitely better with the braking. And this was the worst section for wheel spin. This corner is just flat out. I mean, I think you could probably do this whole section from the chicane all the way around here, and then all the way around Churches, which is the fast one at the bottom here, completely flat out without lifting. But I need to sort of work my way up to that. You'll see in this this next lap, I do sort of master that corner a bit better with just a little lift, and then flick it in and straight back on the power. So these next few laps I hadn't changed anything, I've just adjusted my sort of driving to suit. So I'll leave you with these laps and stop waffling on. was the last session of the day I did. I think I did a total of like 62 laps and burnt through loads of fuel. Feel like I got a really good feel for the car and what it needs to sort of get it to that next level. Lap time wise, you can see there I was running sort of around the 134s, which is again probably like 4 seconds off where I'd need to be, but I do feel like I could definitely get there with that, with a few improvements on the car. Just watching that back, I can already see some improvements I could make on the track as well. So I think with a new set of tyres on there, and if we can find that extra little bit of horsepower to get the straight line speed up a little bit. I know that the MIGs will run about 120 down the straight, whereas the max I could hit was 112, 113. So yeah, need to find a bit more power out the engine, but yeah, I think it's within reach. So yeah, that's good. And like I said, I feel like I'm getting to grips with the technique of driving one of these. Everyone sort of says front wheel drive cars are easier to drive, but I'm not sure I agree with that. But I suppose it's just what you're used to, and it's always going to take a bit of time for your head to sort of sink into a new technique or something. So yeah, getting there though. So the only issue I seem to be having was an oil leak, which initially I thought was just the rocker cover gasket leaking and getting down behind the exhaust and running down the back of the block. But I had the rocker cover off multiple times to sort of clean everything and reseal it, and I really couldn't see anywhere that oil was getting out from the top and running down. The oil seemed to look like it was coming from the actual join of the head gasket. Obviously it could be running from somewhere else and just collecting there, but I thought I would just check none of the head bolts had come loose. There's no sign of any sort of head gasket failure, no oil in the water or pressurizing. It's all running really sweet. It's just that there's oil sort of pooling down the back of the block, so I'm not sure if that's a likely place that it could leak from, or whether the wind as you're driving is just pushing the oil from somewhere else. Not sure, but that was the only thing I was really chasing on the day, was an oil leak. So I'll have to investigate that further. I noticed now I've got an AFR gauge in the car. When I was doing the cool down lap, I was quite often reading off the scale rich. So this is Race Studio 3, and I can monitor everything that the car's been doing. So on at full throttle, fourth gear, I'm averaging around 12 to 1 lambda. But you can see if I come down here where the RPM drops, it is getting quite low, and if it hits 10.9, that's actually the lowest it'll read. It won't read any lower than that, so it could potentially be dropping below that. And that bit there is where I'm short shifting into third gear to get through the second part of that chicane, which did seem to be a bit of a better way of doing it. It was sort of smoother. I was getting less wheel spin. But what you'll see is if I add my cool down lap over the top, you can see that my lambda is everywhere much lower. And I'd noticed checking the plugs after I'd come in, they looked like it had been running rich. So this is obviously why. And I know that it's a race engine with Larry cam and stuff, so can't expect too much. But this, you can see this whole section here is is essentially right off the scale, and that is at 4,400 RPM and goes up to sort of just below 5,000. So it just seems like anything below 5,000 RPM, it's reading off the scale rich. So I'd like to think that could be improved on. Maybe that's just the nature of it. Yeah, I'd like to think that something can be done to improve that a bit, and get that up so that it's not running rich when I'm just trying to do a cool down lap, or when I'm warming the car up, doing the first lap as well. It's going to be sort of similar. So something else to look at there. So yeah, this is real handy for just being able to overlay different stuff and monitor what it's doing. So I can add oil pressure, check that my oil pressure is not dropping. If I click that, it will give me a maximum, minimum and an average, and having the video there as well to be able to see exactly where you are and what's going on. So I'll keep plugging on, keep progressing the car, keep working on my driving, and hopefully get to where I need to be to start racing. That's the plan anyway. That's going to be it for this one. Cheers for watching. See you on the next one.